Hey YouTube, this is Rob L. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be about albums that maybe I didn't appreciate in the past, but have grown on me over the years. Here's that list. So the first pick here is a set of albums by Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion 1 and Use Your Illusion 2 from 1991. So like everybody else, when these albums were first released, I did appreciate the singles that were released, but I think I neglected some of the deeper cuts. And over the years, I've come to really appreciate the deeper cuts on these albums. And in addition, I think I've come to appreciate what I think Guns N' Roses was trying to do at the time. I now view these two albums as part of a grand project with some hits, some misses, and some filler. Next up is the self-titled 1989 album by the band Blue Murder. This album features John Sykes, who recorded most of the guitars for the 1987 Whitesnake album, and is responsible for guitars and vocals on this album. I used to have this album when it came out on CD in 1989. Unfortunately, I don't have that copy, but this is a relatively recent copy that I got used on eBay. I don't think this album rises to the level of perfection of the 1987 Whitesnake album, but I do think that this album is highly underrated and has some incredible guitar work on it. Next up is the debut 1995 album from Slash's Snake Pit, It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere. It has definitely grown on me over the years. I think I kind of ignored it when it first came out. I think if this album had come out a little bit earlier and not right in the middle of the grunge scene, I think this would have done a little bit better. I think the songs are a little bit weak in some areas, maybe compared to Appetite for Destruction, but it's basically a really solid rock record. Okay, next up is Metallica's 1996 album, Load. I admit, when this album first came out, I largely ignored it. It's a departure from the Black Album, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. It's not a thrash album, and it's not a metal album like the Black Album. It's more of a hard rock album. And I think fans largely panned it because it wasn't thrash or metal, but I do think that Metallica was trying to go in a different direction, and if you look at it as just a hard rock album, it's actually pretty decent. Next up is the 1993 album, Coverdale Page, put out by David Coverdale and Jimmy Page. Again, another album that I pretty much ignored when it came out, but I've grown to appreciate it recently. It certainly doesn't rise to the level of the best Whitesnake albums or the best Led Zeppelin albums, but I think it's a really good combination of both their styles, and definitely worth a listen. Next up is the 1995 self-titled album by Alice in Chains. Now, just to be clear, I'm a huge Alice in Chains fan. They're one of my favorite bands, and I've always liked this album, but I think I've come to appreciate it more over the years. I think at the time Lane Staley was having some serious drug issues, and some of the songs don't quite rise to the level of the songwriting of the previous two albums, but I think it's an extremely solid album and extremely creative. Next up is the 1991 Van Halen album, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. As far as albums that have grown on me over the years, this one is probably one of the biggest surprises for me. I think at the time, because I loved 5150 and I really loved OU812, I didn't quite give this album a chance. And the last album today is the 1986 album, The Ultimate Sin by Ozzy. This album has grown on me to the point where it's virtually neck and neck with The Blizzard of Oz. Now, this could change tomorrow if you ask me, but I think that I would have to say that my favorite Ozzy album is now The Ultimate Sin. I think this album gets knocked because many people believe that the production isn't that great, and because Ozzy was in rehab, he wasn't as involved with this album as he was with his previous albums. And I understand all of that, but I think song for song, it's an extremely strong album. So that's it for my list. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like my channel, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. And also leave your list in the comment section.